If I were to show you my Instagram feed right now, you'd be led to believe that the only way you're going to see results is by supplementing with creatine, with protein, with prebiotics, with probiotics, and that exercise alone can't give you the results that you're seeking. But what do we really need? How do we know we need it, and when do we know we need it? Creatine specifically, my body already makes 50% of it, and I can get the other 50% from food. So do I need to supplement with creatine to see results? Well, I'm bringing Stephanie in. She's our registered dietitian, and she is here to teach us on how to know if you need supplements, when you should be supplementing, when they can be beneficial, and when it's just really fabulous marketing. First, let's talk about creatine. Creatine is definitely having a moment. But I want to know if what I'm doing through nutrition and through strength training is enough, or do I need to supplement with creatine?
Oh, creatine. So I will start off by saying that creatine is one of the most well-researched supplements, and we know that it's very safe. There have been studies that have followed participants for up to 4 years, which is a long time, especially in the supplement world, to test it, and there were no negative effects, in those cohorts. Just to kind of back up and give a little bit of background before we talk about like whether you should take it, whether you should have it. But creatine is a compound that comes from 3 amino acids, and it's found in your muscles, mostly in your muscles. About 95% of it's in your muscles, as well as your brain and your heart. So that's going to account for about half of it. You do need to eat creatine. About half of your creatine supply comes from food. You're getting enough if you're eating seafood, so fish and shellfish, if you're eating red meat, pork, veal, beef, or if you're drinking animal milk, so like cow's milk or goat's milk, that is going to give you plenty of creatine just in your natural diet. So like I said, about half of your creatine supply comes from food. The other half is actually produced by your body. Naturally, it comes from your liver, kidneys, and pancreas. So, kind of this idea that we may be creatine deficient or something, that's not true, for the larger population, again, if you are eating those foods.
So you bring up a really good point. Half of my creatine supply comes from the foods that I'm eating. The other half is produced by my body. It's great because it helps my brain, it helps my muscles. So my next question, creatine can boost the effects of exercise, but on its own, creatine doesn't replace the need for exercise or the need for strength training. So who needs creatine?
When we look at creatine, it is the most useful for athletes, especially power athletes. So the ones running, pushing, jumping, I think about a football player or a track athlete or somebody that needs those like powerful bursts of energy, because creatine is a very, very quick, efficient source of energy. So it's really most beneficial for those competitive athletes and those who are really exercising on a regular basis. So when we've looked at studies, the most positively impacted groups are those that are weightlifting and exercising. They're seeing the most muscle growth between the ages of 18 and 30. Now, we still see some muscle growth like throughout the life cycle. There are some newer studies looking at the benefits specifically on women and women who've gone through menopause, and maybe those women benefiting from creatine. If it's not coupled with that high intensity exercise, we aren't seeing, the outcomes as much, but there are some measurable results. As we love to say in science, more studies are needed. We want to see those studies replicated to actually prove that that's actually happening. So like I said, it can help those power athletes. It can improve performance. So the way it's helping is like improving their performance, their recovery. It helps minimize soreness, helps them exercise at a higher intensity. So, and all of those things, we could see those gains. Another group that really benefits from creatine are people who are vegetarian or vegan. And a lot of that is because they tend to have a lower overall protein intake. So taking a creatine supplement, and I will always say this after a creatine supplement, is take your creatine supplement and exercise and weight lift, those are the people that are seeing the most impacts of it.
Okay, so I don't think I personally need to be on a creatine supplement. I do my strength training, I walk, I try to have good nutrition 80% of the time. But what I'm gathering is that maybe I need to put my teenage son on a creatine supplement because he's an athlete that never stops moving. So I'm going to think about that. But you also mentioned something that I think is extremely important, and it's that you can't just check a box when you're looking for overall health. You can't just have one box check, solve all problems. You've got to do the aerobic training like you're walking. You've got to do the strength training. You can't just add a supplement and expect to see big changes from that. So now let's talk about maybe the negative side effects of a supplement like creatine. In our app, we have a community thread where we talk back and forth. Stephanie, a registered dietitian, talks back and forth. There was a thread talking about somebody that had started creatine and had gained weight. So can you tell me, are there any negative side effects to creatine?
There are some negatives. They're not negative health outcomes, but some people do report weight gain. Some of that is because they have more muscle mass, so maybe not a negative weight gain, but also because increased water retention, because the more muscle you have, actually the more water you have in your body. Some people report nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and hyperhidrosis, so like that excessive sweating. So can you go without supplementation? Absolutely. If you choose to supplement, it's not going to hurt. You just may not get kind of all the benefits, especially if you're just kind of a average to moderate person who works out or working out like at an average or moderate intensity. You probably heard this. The older studies did suggest worse renal function with it. But what we have found from doing more research, from repeating those studies, is we see that the only people that creatine actually impacted their kidney function were people who already had kind of this pre-existing chronic or acute kidney disease. So those were people who already were having reduced kidney function, not people with like normal healthy kidneys. We did not see that taking creatine impacted those. So kind of in summary with that, should you take a supplement? You can. Do you need to spend the $75 on it or whatever? You're going to be fine without it. If you're already doing a different protein supplement, you're getting those 3 amino acids that are combining to create creatine in that protein supplement. But if you're looking to simplify, maybe you don't want a protein supplement that maybe has other stuff in it, you could go with just a creatine supplement. So there are some alternatives and there are some benefits to it. It won't hurt anything. I just would kind of set my expectations a little bit more realistically than maybe what you might see on your Instagram feed or, hearing people talk about it.
Oh, that's so good. So you mentioned protein supplement, and that's exactly what we're going to be diving into next. How do I know I need a protein supplement? Does every woman in her 40s need to be taking a protein supplement? Because we keep hearing again and again how important protein is for our declining muscle. How do we know who needs a supplement?
People who will benefit the most from a supplement are people that either have higher needs that they have trouble meeting just with their general nutrition. So maybe you are an endurance athlete. Maybe you're somebody who is doing heavier strength training than kind of, I guess, you're like average person. Those are people that would have higher protein needs. There are some instances that kids, especially when I work with teen boys, they're super active, doing all this stuff. Their bodies are also growing and they just need the little extra. Maybe it's a supplement, maybe it's just the calories, any of those things. We also see if somebody has food restrictions or food preferences that kind of take out an entire category of food. Having a supplement that will make up for that could be important. So let's say you do not eat meat, you might benefit from a protein supplement. If you do not eat fish, I always recommend an omega-3 fatty acid to kind of help fill in those gaps. Other things, if you don't drink milk or don't have dairy products, but you're also not kind of getting your calcium from other foods, then you might need a calcium supplement as well. Also, as we age and we maybe need to support our bodies a little bit more with some extra vitamins and minerals, I always think a multivitamin is appropriate. When we are talking about these things, it's truly to supplement our food. Food first, always the motto, but then supplement to add to it. Maybe it's some protein, maybe it's certain vitamins and minerals. You do not need an entire cabinet full of these things. If you are eating a balanced diet, then you should be getting everything that your body needs to be fueled and run efficiently.
I love that. Food first, then supplement. I think you also brought up a really good point, and that is if you are lacking a food group. For me, I'm allergic to milk, so that's your milk, butters, cheeses, and although not directly correlated, I am deficient in vitamin B, and I know that because of my blood work with my doctor, so she has me on vitamin B supplements. So supplements can also be very highly individualized, right? But let's talk more generally about protein supplementation. Protein is not stored in the body, which is why we always hear that we have to consume protein. And we have to increase our protein intake if we are strength training, especially as we get a little bit older. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Protein is really important throughout the life cycle, but it can be exceptionally important as we age and when we're working out, because the role of protein in our diet is to help to build and repair tissue. So unlike carbohydrates, our bodies don't store protein. So when you eat a carbohydrate and it goes through your digestive system and it is metabolized into your bloodstream, moved into your cells, carbs are kind of like laying in wait to be used as energy. Those are the first thing your brain needs, first thing your muscles need. So that's where you get carbohydrates. Carbohydrates also, eating too many of them can lead to extra fat storage too. And fat is our second source of fuel. So we use carbs first. It's kind of the easiest, most efficient thing for our body. And then we'll use fat as a secondary source of energy. Protein is not used in that way. So protein, like I said, is used to build and repair tissues. So what protein is doing, you eat it, it goes through your digestive system, it is moving into your body, into your bloodstream, and it is going into those muscle tissues, that lean mass, and kind of creating or repairing things. It also helps with your skin. So if you had a recent surgery or something, you probably have been told that you need to increase your protein intake. But that's what's happening. How I really think about it is whenever you work out, you get these tiny micro tears in your muscles. And these are not a bad thing. It's totally natural. It's just what happens when you're putting stress on something. It is coming in, and that protein, so it's kind of like these little tiny tears, and the protein is coming in and kind of filling in these tears and repairing them. So in doing that, when we are balancing our exercise and our protein comes in, rebuilds, repairs. That's how you get stronger, leaner muscles. That's how you increase your muscle mass. So it's really working on both of them. What we don't use, we lose. So if you're doing huge amounts of protein that are not going to be used by your body, then you are going to be excreting a lot of it. So it's going to be excreted through your urine, through your kidneys. And so it is important. We need it every day because our bodies do not store it. So not only is it important when working out, but as we age, our kind of baseline muscle mass decreases. And that's due to hormones, that's due to age, that can be due to sometimes reduced activity levels. And so all of those things play a role, which is why we need to make sure that we are getting adequate amount of protein in our diet to help support the muscle mass. Now, this may mean too that you need to eat more protein than you were eating before because we're kind of coming back from a deficit. We're not just maintaining. But that's the reason why protein is so important in these situations.
All right, continuing the conversation about protein. Do I have to buy a protein powder if I need to supplement my protein? Or can I get away with things that I might already have at home, like chia seeds and flax seeds, and maybe things that are just a little bit more accessible?
Chia and flaxseed, whenever we think of those are more of the food products, while the protein supplements are, in fact, supplements. And they are a need. They aren't necessary. You can definitely get a variety of the things that those foods or supplements offer just by, other foods that you might eat. Of course, I mentioned this kind of in several different spaces, but most Western diets definitely get enough protein. If you don't think you're getting enough, I would encourage you really to food journal for a few days, kind of track your protein. Or if you are somebody who has a little bit higher protein needs due to your activity level or your diet choices, then doing the supplement makes sense. The benefit with the chia seed and the flax seed is they are giving protein, but they're also giving some good healthy fats, and they're also giving fiber. So while they aren't necessary, they actually are really helpful to kind of help, they're a concentrated source of those things. So those can be really easy ways to kind of add some of that. The chia seeds, flaxseed, both of those can be put on a salad. Chia seeds go really well in like a smoothie or something, or you can do like the chia pudding, but all of those things, again, not a need to have, but sometimes a nice to have.
So Stephanie, as a registered dietitian, you've read thousands and thousands of food journals. And what you've shared with me is that you typically see that women are getting enough protein, but where we're lacking is produce, our fruits, our vegetables, full of antioxidants and vitamins and minerals and fiber, and they go and soak up all the free radicals. So do we need to have produce, or can I just take a supplement instead?
So yes, produce is incredibly important. If you're neglecting produce, you're neglecting several nutrients like your vitamins, your minerals, fiber, and those are just the big categories. Our vitamins and minerals, the list goes on and on. All your B vitamins, A, D, E, K, all those things are going to be found in there. And it's really not something that we can make up for if you lack actual vegetables in supplements, because whenever we really get down to it, we can't replicate in a lab the way that like real whole foods will act in the body. We can get some of those things, and sometimes that's necessary and appropriate and even encouraged, but relying on supplements or greens or your powders to have instead of whole fruits and vegetables really isn't going to get the job done. I've even had a couple of athletes or trainers or people who really, really are health conscious, and they have had vitamin deficiencies because they aren't eating the whole foods and are actually relying on supplements, instead. Whenever you are looking at produce, it's not just for the vitamins and minerals, but whenever I've been encouraging, higher protein intake, especially if you're you're struggling with weight gain, or you're going through menopause, or you're trying to kind of change your body composition. Your protein intake usually needs to be a little bit higher than maybe normal. And produce is a really, really needed component of that overall health picture as well, because produce is offering fiber and it's going to offer some good carbs that are going to help with your balanced diet. Whenever you kind of go all in on that protein and you aren't getting enough of those carbs, you aren't getting enough of those fiber, you're most likely going to have GI effects. You're going to suffer from constipation. And so kind of doing both things at once. We are getting enough protein. We definitely need more produce. Lots of reasons why to complement that protein intake, but also to make sure that our bodies, our energy, our metabolism is getting what it needs to fuel it and do its job correctly.
Stephanie, we've been friends and business partners for almost 20 years, and I still learn so much every time I talk to you. So we are going to do more shows with Stephanie. But if you want to chat directly with Stephanie, or you want to see her bi-weekly updates and how to up your nutrition game, you can find her in our app, and I will put all of that information below in our show notes.